everyone, happy Friday and welcome to another Freezer Meal Friday. I'm going to be making two of my absolute favorite soups, tortilla soup and chicken noodle soup. And my plan is to put everything in the bag. I want to get all of the prep done, so all of the vegetable chopping, I want the seasonings in the packets. So for these, I am going to be using these giant zipper bags. So what I'm going to do is pretty much stick everything in the bag besides just the chicken broth or the water, and then be able to just throw everything in the crock pot and let it simmer all day long. This is gonna be a super duper easy freezer meal that I can have. I intend to get 8 meals out of this. So 4 of the tortilla soups and then 4 of the chicken noodle soups. So my first step here is I'm gonna wash and chop all of my produce, and then I'm gonna assemble the baggies in like an assembly line fashion. So let me show you all the fresh ingredients I'm gonna be including. So I've got cilantro, I have a bunch from last week, and then a new bunch, and then a bunch of parsley. I've got onions, I picked out 5, a zucchini, a squash, I include those in my tortilla soups. 4 green peppers, a little bit of leftover kale. It's almost wilting, but I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in there so it doesn't go bad. Then 2 bags of baby carrots. I'm just gonna chop these little guys up, and then a bag of spinach, pack of celery. So first I'm just gonna work on washing and chopping, and then I'll come back and we'll start assembling. Okay, all my vegetables are chopped up now. I went ahead and just chopped everything, gave it a rough dice, and I pulled all the kale off of the veins. I'm just assuming you guys know how to wash and chop vegetables, but there's no shame if you haven't really done that very much. I'd be happy to make you guys a video if you just leave me a comment below. I know some people are new to cooking altogether, so no judgment from me. If you need a little tutorial on that, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to do a quick knife skills chopping washing video for you guys. Anyway, I'm just assuming in this video, for the sake of time, you guys know how to chop, and here's everything all chopped up. Since both of these are chicken-based recipes, what I did was I just bought a huge pack of boneless, skinless chicken breasts. When I got them home, I went ahead and put them in the gallon baggies. So they're already frozen. They went straight in the freezer like this as soon as I got home. And one of them actually has some squash in it already. I had some sauteed squash I didn't end up eating one day, so I went ahead and put the rest of it in this frozen baggie. This is gonna be one of my tortilla soup recipes. I've got 8 baggies with chicken breasts in them, so I'm gonna start with the first 4 and do my tortilla soup, and then we'll work on the chicken soup. So I'm gonna set 4 of these back in the freezer for just a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and open up all my baggies so I can go ahead and add in my vegetables. I'm pretty sure I've shown my tortilla soup recipe on this channel. It's basically a vegetable soup recipe flavored like tortilla soup. I add lots of extra vegetables, and this is a great way if you have picky eaters in your family. This is just a great way to add more vegetables into their diet because it tastes just like the soup. All the flavors of the veggies meld together, and it just makes one wonderful pot of soup. To tell you the truth, my husband never liked tortilla soup until I made it for him, and I think it's just the flavors of all the veggies mixing up in the soup that makes this soup super delicious. It's absolutely one of both of our favorites, and I get a lot of veggies in there that he ordinarily wouldn't love. He does not eat spinach and kale unless it's in this recipe or if it's in a pasta, so I can hide more veggies in the soup and get him to eat more veggies. So I make it super healthy. Let's go ahead and add in our vegetables. So I've got my 4 bags here. And for this, I'm gonna add in some onions and green peppers. So I'm just gonna grab a handful and add it in. This will be my vegetable hand, and this will be my holding the bag hand. Just gonna add in some onions, and I do wanna save some of these onions for my chicken noodle soup recipe. Okay, so I saved about, I don't know, an onion and a half for the chicken noodle soup. I'm going to use all of these green peppers. I chopped up 4 green peppers, so it equals about 1 pepper per bag. Just going to grab some handfuls and start dividing them into the baggies. Done with the green peppers. Like I said, I like to sneak in extra veggies. So these ones you wouldn't really find in traditional tortilla soup, but I love putting it in my soup because like I said, my husband wouldn't eat these otherwise. So I'm gonna give a generous scoop of the spinach for each baggie. And I am going to save some of the spinach for a couple of my chicken noodle soups. I'm going to add extra veggies to those too. And I've got maybe 2 handfuls of the spinach left for my chicken soup. And same with the kale. Then next I've got my squash and zucchini. I'm just going to divide this between the 4 bags. These are other veggies that I sneak in. They're not in traditional tortilla soup. Divide them out until I run out. Actually don't need as much squash in this one since it's the one that had the frozen squash in it already. I'm also going to add just a little bit of carrots, but most of these carrots are actually for the chicken soup. And then all of the cilantro is for these. So I'm going to go ahead and just divide this into the 4. In a grocery haul, I showed some cilantro in a previous week, and somebody had asked me how I save the cilantro. I said I was going to freeze part of it because my recipe didn't call for the whole thing. And what I like to do is either, add it to something like this where it's already mixed in with a group of vegetables, or add a little bit of olive oil in one of those teeny containers that I use. If you watch a lot of my videos, you've probably seen these a bunch of times, but these are just the Gladware 4-ounce or half a cup containers. I will just add I got it all over my hands. I will just add in whatever spices I have left and then cover it in olive oil and freeze it in something like that. Then I can just throw in a pasta or a stew later on. That's what I like to do. You could also use an ice cube tray instead of little containers like this if you want. Just thought I would share that while I was thinking about it. That's it as far as the fresh produce goes. I'm going to go ahead and add in my spices. I've got a bunch of spices here, and these I really just eyeball, but I'm going to give you guys kind of approximate measurements to get you started. You can always add more or less of anything you feel like adding. So of course, I always do the sea salt and cracked black pepper. I just have mils of both of these, and this is pink Himalayan sea salt. That's why it's a different color. It's really good. I'll add a little bit of these now, but then I'll add more to taste as I'm simmering everything later on. Also got some red pepper flakes. I add maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of these. If you like it spicy, you can add more. If you don't like it spicy, you can always leave these out. And for additional spice, I just give a little bit of a shake of this ground cayenne red pepper. Just give it a little dash of that. Then paprika, I maybe do a half a teaspoon of this. And then these are the 2 bigger spices. For the chili powder, I add 1 to 2 tablespoons, and for the cumin, I add about 1 tablespoon. So add a bunch of both of these. That's what really gives it that nice, rich, reddish brown color. You get the deep color from these 2. So I'm gonna just go ahead and add in my spices now. And that is it for these packets, so I'm going to try to squeeze out as much air as possible and try to label these. So what's great about assembling these in baggies is you can lay them any shape that you want before freezing. So like I sealed the bags and made this little like blobby shape. You could also lay everything flat if flat works better in your freezer. I'm just going to keep mine blobbed up like this. I think they'll fit really nicely in our top tray in our freezer. So that way I can see the label. They're all nice and organized in my tray. I'm going to go ahead and stick these in the freezer and we'll start on the chicken noodle soup. Before I start adding my veggies, I'm going to go ahead and label these while I'm thinking about it and while I have my Sharpie marker out. It'll just be a little easier. I'm going to open up all my baggies and start adding in my vegetables. For the vegetables, I'm going to just divide it into the 4, except the extra spinach I'm going to just add into 1. That way we have 3 plain chicken noodle soups and then 1 with a little bit of extra spinach if I'm feeling like a little extra veggies. All right, got my celery. Now I'm gonna add the onions. Spinach, I'm just gonna add it to this one. Next, the carrots. Then I have 1 bunch of parsley I'm gonna divide between the 4 containers. I love parsley. Parsley is one of my favorites. And for spices, I keep it really simple. I just want the vegetables to really, give off the flavor. So I do chicken broth. I'm also going to add in some of this garlic. This is just minced garlic and extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon, which ends up being approximately 2 cloves of garlic. So it says half a teaspoon equals approximately 1 clove. Next, I'm going to add in a bay leaf. This just adds some flavor, but be sure to take your bay leaf out after you're done cooking. Nobody wants to eat the bay leaf. These are also really good in any kind of stew. Just give it a nice homey comfort flavor. Then I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, but again, once it's simmered, I'll taste and add salt and pepper to taste later. I'll seal these up and then I'll talk about how I'm going to cook these later on. Real quick, I wanted to show you guys my freezer a little bit. Down here, I had this little extra section I was just not doing much with. It had piles of stuff in it. I just moved everything over to here. That's stuff we're still working on eating and getting rid of. And then here, I decided to put all my bagged stuff. So these are all ready-made meals. I got my chicken soups down here, my tortilla soups up here, and I'm ready to go. I want to go ahead and show you a little bit of my process for how I plan on using these meals and stuff. So I'm going to do an entire video just on this postpartum meal planner and walk you through my week by week and all that stuff. But for today's purposes, I just want to show you what I'm doing to keep track of what still needs to be added to any of the meals. I'm going to flip to my cooking info page. I needed more directions here in case anybody's going to be cooking any of these meals. Like my husband does not know how to cook, so I have to leave him some instructions. He can follow basic instructions, and that's pretty much as far as his cooking abilities goes. So on this cooking info, I'm going to go ahead and put in the other things that I'm going to require for those meals. Like I said, I just want to basically throw everything from the freezer into the pot with some chicken broth, but there's a couple of other things you have to add. So first we'll just start with this tortilla soup. I didn't add any of the canned things that I normally would add. I'm going to write in it needs a can of diced tomatoes, a can of green chilies, and a can of black beans. All right, so now those are my directions. I didn't want to open cans just to waste space in the freezer with those cans, so that's something that we can just have in our pantry. You know, cans don't go bad for a really long time, so I can just have those cans ready to go. He can just grab those out of the pantry if he happens to be cooking that night. So it says add can of diced tomatoes, green chilies, and black beans to crock pot. Fill with chicken broth and water and cook on low. When I write fill with chicken broth and water, I'll use 1 box of chicken broth and then fill the rest of the way with water. If I happen to be cooking the tortilla soup myself, I'd probably add in some rice too, but I want it to be as simple as possible for whoever's cooking, so the rice isn't necessary. So for the chicken soup, all it needs besides the chicken broth is some noodles. So in my directions, I'm just gonna write add noodles, and that's about it. So for the chicken soup, I just wrote add egg noodles, chicken broth, and water to crock pot, cook on low. So he can follow these type of basic directions, and you know, I'll be home, so he can always come and ask me if he has any sort of issue with following the directions. So I have this just in case, you know, I don't feel like cooking or I'm feeling too horrible. This way we can still have delicious meals and I don't have to worry about it so much. When we get further on into my freezer meals, I will walk you through all of this stuff. So I just wanted to show you kind of how I'm keeping track of what else needs to be added to the freezer meals. And that kind of explains my process a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like freezer videos, and be sure to subscribe so you follow me along. I'll have another freezer meal video for you guys next week. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.